Are you videoing? Good morning. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Carolyn's gonna be here in like 1 minute. She's got a long drive, so we got our latte. We're gonna get talking. I'm nervous. We're filming our first video podcast and with our first guest.
When was the last time you saw her?
Our call to the bar. Literally, I can insert a pic here at our call to the bar. Oh my god, she's here! She looks so cute! You look perfect. Welcome to the Non-Billable Hours Podcast. My name is Odette, and this is a podcast for lawyers that has nothing to do with the practice of law. It's a very exciting day today because it's our first video podcast, as you can tell, and this video will be on YouTube, and then the audio will also be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the way they always are. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then I'm telling you something you already know. This is also a very exciting day for me because I have my first guest, Carolyn McKeen. She is one of my most favorite people from law school, from my time at law school, and she's a badass. Can I say ass? I guess I can. It's my podcast. I can say whatever I want. She's a badass. So after pursuing a career in public health, before it became the world's least favorite trending topic, Carolyn went to law school, which is where she met someone who would change her life forever. Just kidding. That's my answer. But that is where we met. So Carolyn and I were in small group together. It's a small group of people that you're selected to have every class with in your first year of law school, and hopefully you like each other. Turns out we did. I was incredibly lucky to have Carolyn in my small group. She's brilliant, driven, an inspiration, and she always inspired me. And when she's not working as a litigator, she's running or exploring a random new hobby. If she isn't on a plane or in another time zone, she's planning her next trip. And I know this for a fact because she literally just got back from the most epic looking adventure. So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you so much. You're too kind with your compliments. Brilliant. I don't know. Definitely exploring random hobbies though, for sure. Yes. And likewise, like I feel like no time has passed and here we are.
You look exactly the same.
You look exactly the same too. Great for us.
I know, right? Thank goodness. I'm so excited. And I also want to say today is actually International Women's Day. So
is it?
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
I didn't know. I guess I should have known that.
You know how I know?
How?
Because this old radio actually works. And so last night when we were setting up the podcast studio, I plugged, Andrew's like, I don't even know if it works. It just looks cool. And I was like, okay, I'll try and turn it on. Actually, can we? Anyways, it works. And they were talking all about International Women's Day last night. So I was like, this is perfect. I have a very strong, brilliant, you might not think you're brilliant. I think you're brilliant. You literally were the one who pushed me into doing litigation competitions and trial competitions in law school.
Really?
You made me sign up for Cherniac. Yep.
I made you sign up for Cherniac.
You made me sign up for Cherniac.
I did not. I don't remember that.
You did. I wasn't going to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you like just won.
But you placed and then you came with me to Ottawa.
Yes.
For the OTLA Cup.
The OTLA Cup. I remember
And you were
that.
my witness.
I was your witness. Oh my goodness.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And we won that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I did a lot of moots in law school. And that was really like the first kind of like, oh, should we do this? We're first years. We don't know anything. And then it ended up being like such a cool experience. I don't know how much I've used those skills, but anyway, it was good. It's good times.
You sent me a bunch. So I asked you, always go above and beyond. And I was not surprised when I asked you for like a couple of pictures and you were like, I'll send a couple. And you sent me like so many. And I was looking through. You sent me some of your travels, which we will get into, which I'm so excited to talk about. But you also sent me some of your time from Western, from law school. And it gave me such nostalgia. And there's a couple of you and your dad. And I think that's when he came for maybe the Cherniac Cup finals.
My dad came every single year for Cherniac finals.
So supportive.
Yeah. And I'm like, Dad, this is like kind of boring. Like, it's a student competition. He's like, no, it's drama. Like, he really enjoyed coming to those. It's like his fond memory of my law school years. But yeah, that was tough. When you asked for a photo, I was like, oh God, like what do I pick? So I picked more recent ones, but then I thought, that's not very lawyery. So I went back in time and dug up these, you know, and found some of me in my robes. And then I like got into the Cherniak photos. I'm like, oh, there's the old moot courtroom. And it was just, yeah, it seems like maybe like 3 to 4 years ago, not 10 to 11 years ago.
No, it doesn't seem that long ago. Honestly, when I like think of my time in law school versus articling and like my very first law job, law school feels more recent.
Definitely.
Do you know?
Definitely.
Do you feel that way too?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you look exactly the same as those photos. And there's one of you and Peter. And was that after winning
Chayton's?
Chayton's.
The moot that I had no interest in doing. We ended up winning. I was like, okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun what you can do if you just like go for it?
Just go for it.
Yeah.
I think that's my new philosophy in life. Is just do it. It'll be fine.
Well, you definitely prove that all the time. I want to talk about your running and your travel and your hobbies, because that's kind of one of the reasons I want to have you on the podcast. Because I miss you, and I was like, man, I really need to see her. This is a great excuse and a reason. I don't know what it is about like social, but I always feel if I ask someone if they want to hang out, it's like, what can I offer? Isn't that so silly? But if I'm like, do you want to do an activity together?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I can offer.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's hang. Let's do a podcast.
That was the thing, is like, even if it works out that like I'm not going to be a guest or I'm going to be a terrible guest, at least
you're off. Can we get her out of here, Andrew? Let's just kick her out.
It's not going to work.
Keep the latte.
But it was like, oh my gosh, like I get to go and like hang out with Odette. Like, so that's, but you're right. Like I feel kind of weird, like, because I have so many like little transient connections through social media with people, and I'm like, oh, I love that person, like that person's great, but like to actually reach out and be like, hey, do you want to like actually hang out? It's so it's I was thrilled to hear from you, like podcast or no podcast. I love the podcast, by the way.
Oh, you don't.
And your motivation for starting the podcast is so genuine. It's like, I want to connect with people. It's not I want like sponsorships or
no.
whatever. I want to like grow my audience.
If you're what, no, I'm just kidding.
But I was like, that's so pure and it's so you. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. It's like, of course, she started a podcast. She's the one who should have started a podcast of everyone in our year. So yeah,
you're making me blush and cry at the same time. And can I show the gift that you brought me?
Oh, the pod warming
to it is so thoughtful and brought. Well, why don't you tell me? So these are chocolates, which I love.
Yes. So I brought you chocolate from Ecuador because I knew that I talked to you before I left.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, we'll have to like do this after my trip to the Galapagos.
Oh my God.
So of course you were in my head in the Galapagos. And I'm buying, like, honestly, I bought chocolate for a lot of people because it's
amazing.
It's chocolate or coffee, and coffee's very personal. So like, do you get beans? Do you get grounds? I don't know. So
it's
chocolate,
also heavy.
It's heavy.
It takes up a lot of space.
It's like, so the chocolate was easy. So brought you chocolate. And then I brought you a little thin volume of Mary Oliver poems. And they're kind of like reflections on nature, and maybe they're about grasshoppers or grass, or maybe they're about the meaning of life. It just depends on your mood. You can read what you want into those, but there are a couple of lines of hers that I come back to in my life, that I just thought, like, you and I have some similar qualities, and I thought you would appreciate some of the sentiments in there.
So. Thank you. You know me so well, despite not having seen each other in a very long time. I cried when she gave me these. So. How are you doing so far? You okay?
I'm good. I've obviously never been a podcast guest.
You're killing it.
I'm like, what do I do? And I told you, my dad is a journalist.
Amazing.
He was always like finding guests and writing interviews, and so he like this, like, he would love this. He's going to be really excited.
We'll have him on the podcast.
But, we can invite him. He would be thrilled. And I don't think I told him that there was video. So he's actually he's like, I'm really excited to hear it. I'm like, well,
Papa McKeen, you're going to watch it.
Next level. So
hi, Carolyn's dad. And now my career has brought me to a neon sign and some plants. This one's called Bob because it looks like Sideshow Bob.
It's a real plant, though.
It's not a real plant. Exactly. That one, not so much. But the rest of the plants in here are all real.
Love it.
So this was a very early on plant. Andrew actually had this when we first met, and we named him Bob.
I'm impressed by any alive plant.
No, Not great at keeping plants alive.
I'm not a green thumb. Despite having gone to green thumb camp as a child, my mom sent me to green thumb camp.
That's a thing?
It's a thing.
In Toronto.
Edwards Gardens. Is that still a thing? Is that still a place?
We've gone there in the winter and the spring, and it's so pretty.
Not my favorite camp.
Oh no. Was it like a summer day camp?
It was a summer day camp, and you learned about plants and you grew plants, and I just wasn't into plants, and that has remained a theme of my life.
Not into plants.
No.
Are you into like gardening in any event, like
Absolutely
things you
not.
can eat? No, not your.
No, I would love that. Like my sister has these beautiful like vegetable like herb things in her backyard, and like she actually uses what she grows. Like we should, but no, I never got into that. I don't like to get my hands dirty, which probably sounds strange.
Which is ironic considering how much you travel and like run ultramarathons in Turkey.
Okay, to be clear. Turkey was 38K.
Oh,
That's not an ultra. And then I ran the Istanbul Marathon, which was a marathon.
Marathon. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
The only
Sorry,
ultra I've done
everyone.
is local. So, yeah.
Only local ultras.
Only
Can you even call yourself an ultra athlete if you've only done local?
I don't think so.
I do. Struggling to do 10 these days with my knee.
Oh, well, yeah, there's another like thing we have in common is like running, right?
Yes.
Like you love running too.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I want to get into that.
Good.
But first, I want to rewind a little bit and just understand, because law was not your first career.
No.
You had a career, you had an education and a career before you decided to go to law school. And I think you even deferred law school for a year.
I did.
Yeah.
I
I
did.
found a blog that you wrote many moons ago.
Oh my gosh.
About, I do my research. So I found a blog that you wrote about your decision to defer for a year. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you, because I don't think we've ever talked about like what prompted you to go to law school after already starting a career in public health.
Yeah. So law was kind of always in the background. Even in high school, university, I kept sort of coming back to it as something that would probably be a good fit, maybe a good fit, because it suited my strengths, right? It was analysis, it was writing. So I thought, okay, well, that's, like something to keep in the background. And I loved the stories of law. Like the first law class you take, I think it was grade 11. It's all criminal law.
Yeah, you learn about David Milgaard and you learn all these wild cases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Automatism, like,
oh my gosh, yeah, right?
Like those sort of spicy cases. So I sort of had an early interest in it, but also really liked diseases. I loved diseases and microbiology and infectious diseases in particular. So I ended up sort of going that route in undergrad, and then did a master's in public health as well. And I was kind of working in the summers and working all throughout this time in government jobs, surveillance analyst, policy analyst, sort of looking at chronic and infectious diseases. But that like law bit in the back. It just kept coming back up. And I ended up, I deferred. I deferred for a year because I had a good government job.
And that was
basically.
in Toronto?
It was in Toronto, yeah. It was Toronto and Guelph. I sort of moved back and forth between. So I had a few positions in those two areas. But I actually wrote the LSAT in my second year of my master's.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Because there was something I felt like I wasn't going to be happy in the government. And I really wanted to explore like that, can I get into law school? Is that, a thing? How am I going to do on the LSAT? So wrote the LSAT, ended up actually I booked it kind of late because it ended up being a bit of a spur of the moment decision.
I'm just going to write the LSAT.
To do this,
see what happens.
Because I studied over the summer. I actually had a contract in Ottawa. So I was living in Ottawa with my grandma. And
hi, Grandma.
Hi, Grandma. She just turned 97.
Oh my God. Happy birthday, Grandma.
So I'm studying for the LSAT, and I'm looking at the dates, and I'm looking at the application. I'm like, you know what? I want to get that. Like, I think it was a fall application in. So I had to write the LSAT before the end of the year. All the spots in Toronto and anywhere, like close to me were
booked. Yeah.
So I flew up to Thunder Bay.
Stop it. I did not know that.
I ended up flying up to Thunder Bay to write the LSAT. So I was there for 2 days. It was freezing, dead of winter, wrote the LSAT, said, I really don't want to have to do that again. But I was in the application cycle. So it was kind of like,
because you could apply and then send in your LSAT score after, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I forgot about that. I blocked all this out of my head.
Yeah. It just worked out. And so it was like, I remember it was actually almost this time of year. I went to that reception, it was like March 10th or something at Western for people who I was admitted in January, February. So 2010, I was there at that like Western reception, and then decided to defer because I had this good job and I was able to do that. So that's kind of how I ended up in law. But it wasn't like I'm definitely going to be a lawyer. And I had it in my head that I wanted to combine law and health in some way. But before you go to law school, you don't really have a good handle on what that means.
No.
So yeah, that's how I ended up in law school in 2011.
2011 with me.
With you. Good thing I deferred.
I know. I'm very happy you deferred. But actually, you know what? Now you say that, I remember very early on, was it Julian or Julius? You met someone and then
Julius
I remember because he was in, Julius Coe, what a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And I remember you knowing him, and he was a 2L.
Yeah.
And I think you told me at that time, like you met, did you meet at the reception, like the welcome reception?
I think so. It was there was some tour. Social media. Like he was like very sort of friendly out there person. So he was one of the first people I like connected with, because I thought I was, for a while I thought, I'm going to like enter in 2010. So it was kind of a decision I made over the summer because I had this good job and actually really loved the people that I worked with in Guelph and Toronto in public health. So it just seemed like I can like save some money and not come out completely in debt. So
very smart.
Did that. But that's how I ended up sort of making that decision. But I did make some early connections with those people because I went to that welcome day in like 2010. That was going to be my class.
Amazing.
And, so amazing. Fun times.
I'm just going to pause and see if the train is okay with the sound, because sometimes, but I think it's already going. Andrew, how's the sound with the train? It's all right? I actually don't care. I don't mind. We're like right on the train tracks, but I actually really like it. That's awesome. It's a good thing it doesn't shake the building, like if we're, but yeah, I totally remember that. Okay. And so you said that you, a question I have for you, which I'm so curious about everyone who becomes a lawyer or goes into one of those like professional, was there any pressure on you or outside influence on you to be either like, go, because you already had a master's, like you have like 7 degrees at this point, like I don't know how you killing
it.
Four. You have 4 degrees at this point. 2 masters.
You have 2 masters. Right. I have a master's in law.
Master's in law, which you got 2020 started?
I started in 2020, so that was like my pandizzle project.
Some people make sourdough starters. I found a partner. You got a master.
I wanted to do that like health law masters. So I did that in 2020 for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So clearly you like learning.
I do.
You like education.
Love school.
You're very good at it. Yeah. I love school too. I kind of miss it.
You should go
back. I miss sitting in class.
Me too.
I do.
The virtual class, having done it now, most of my master's was virtual because it was during pandemic times. Of course. Oh, it's not the same.
No.
Not the same at all.
No.
Don't like it. Don't like it at all.
It's kind of like court, virtual court versus being in court.
Yeah.
I like the convenience of virtual court.
Definitely.
But I prefer, if I'm going to go to court, I just want to be in the courtroom.
If you're going to watch a trial, have you watched a Zoom trial? It's like...
I've watched Zoom regulatory proceedings.
Okay.
Never been part of one. But I've watched Zoom's regulatory, and I've done like virtual hearings, which again don't feel the same. You're like sitting in a boardroom.
It's horrible.
And it's horrible. You can control the temperature a little bit better than the courtroom, because for 2.5 weeks in my Barry trial, I was just like an ice cube. I was like wearing 2 sets of tights at the end of it.
Oh no.
So cold all the time. But okay, so I miss in life class. I know that you really like education. So you're in this career in public health.
Yeah.
You've got a good job. I know you said that like grade 11 kind of law but before that, were you the type of kid who was like, I want to be a lawyer, not really knowing what that means like I was? Or did you have a better reason for entering law school?
Definitely not. I don't think as a kid. I think as a kid, I actually wanted to be a writer.
Oh, okay.
Well, before that, no, I wanted to be an Olympic equestrian. There was that phase.
Amazing. I love that.
But yeah, I really loved, actually love creative writing. So if I could be just like a fiction writer, that would be awesome. I went through a phase where I wanted to be a pathologist as well.
Oh, okay.
Really liked sort of that biology angle, but it was never like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. And there was no pressure that came from my parents. There was sort of an expectation that I would go to university. I think that was very much not if, but like, which university are you going to?
Yeah.
But there was no pressure there. No one in my family is a lawyer. So yeah, it sort of developed over time, kind of like, okay, I think this is something that could be a good fit.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how I came to it.
Well, you were right. So you developed that kind of gradually over time, and more near like, my frontal cortex is more developed, and this is a decision I'm making later in life.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of good because our class was like a whole spectrum of ages and backgrounds.
Yeah.
So you get like the kids who are fresh out of Ivy and they're like,
oh my God,
21 or whatever. But you got a whole bunch of people you could have on from our class.
Oh my God, I know, right?
It's a good group.
Okay. So kind of on that vein, like, did you have when you pictured being a lawyer, whatever age that was, when you thought, okay, this is how being a lawyer is going to be, was there a particular vision you had in your mind about what that would look like, what you would look like? So for example, like when I pictured myself as a lawyer, which is not the lawyer I am, I pictured myself on Bay Street in like a marble tower, walking down the hallways, like just walking fast everywhere in high heels. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like maybe I watched too much Suits, but I had this vision even when I was younger, and I do have lawyers in my family. Some of my cousins all my cousins are brilliant, but I come from a very large family on both sides, and a lot of my cousins on my mom's side are lawyers in the States and here. Different kinds, like some are in education, some are in private practice, some work for government. So I had a bunch of cousins who I've always looked up to who are lawyers. And so I wanted to be a lawyer from a young age. And then I wanted to be a very specific type of lawyer. And I didn't know what I would be practicing, but I just knew what I wanted to look like. If that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. Right? Yeah.
So did you have a concept of where you wanted to practice or how you wanted your life to look as a lawyer before you started practicing?
Not really. And looking back, it's probably something that I should have given more thought to. But I sort of, I guess, and what I realize now is law, whether you practice, in a suit on Bay Street or in some other capacity, it opens a lot of doors. Yeah. So I felt like it was a good degree to have. I didn't really have a vision for myself like that. Like, obviously you watch like Law and Order or whatever.
There's a Law and Order Toronto now. Did you know that?
Is there?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Are you on it?
No. No, but actually a friend of ours, a photographer friend of Andrew's, his house was used. The front of his house was used in one of the shots.
Oh my goodness.
So we're like, pardon me?
The criminal's house in the nice neighborhood.
The criminal's house in the nice neighborhood.
Oh, lovely.
And they have the sweetest house. Like their setup is amazing. But yeah, there's like persons like running away and like getting into a taxi to like flee the country, and it's like his house.
That's awesome.
Isn't that funny?
That's so cool.
So sorry to interrupt, but
no,
yeah, so Law and Order.
Then you like when you get into practice, you realize how ridiculous it is because they're doing like a summary judgment motion one day and like a criminal trial the next, and they get a trial date in like 3 days. You're going to trial. How many trials have you done? Like, it's just...
We're getting trial dates in Toronto now, and like it's 2025. I think I'm getting like pre-trials in 2026.
Yeah.
Trial dates 2027.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
same.
Wildly different.
Yeah.
Wildly different.
Yeah. So I didn't have that vision of myself as like, oh, I'm going to be a corporate lawyer. I'm going to be, in the courtroom. I just had a sense that it would be a good, it would allow me to do a bunch of different things. There's lots of things you can do. You can work for the government. You can go and be a JAG. I think too, I always wanted to have a job where you're like traveling around, like jet setting. Like,
yep,
I'm going on another business trip. And I thought law might give me the opportunity to do that more than it has. Like, I don't travel for my job unless it's to like Toronto, Windsor, like,
in Ontario.
Barrie. Like, it's, so there's no like international component to this job. Could there be? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what I was thinking is I want a job where I can, do all this travel and see the world and stuff. So yeah, it was a little bit of a, I don't know, not poorly planned. It was just, didn't really have like a crisp vision of myself, marching down the marble hall.
Maybe that's a good thing. Your ankles will thank you.
Oh, I can't wear heels anymore.
Oh, I'm done.
Done.
The heels went out with the pandemic.
What was that?
Absolutely the heck not anymore.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic. I was almost always in heels.
Yeah.
Especially in court because I'm short.
Yes.
And I need the extra boost. But I was walking around the office in heels. And now that's just unthinkable. So
I would put on my heels to go get a coffee or to go get lunch.
Crazy, eh?
Or to go buy the senior lawyer's booze as an articling student.
Yeah.
Like, I was hoofing it with like bags of beer in a suit and heels.
How do we do it?
I don't know. Maybe that's why I have knee issues now.
Maybe. Take care of those.
I know, right? But like, yeah, now there are days I go into the office where I don't change out of my winter boots. No. Whereas like before, it would have been like your heels are in your bag. Yeah. Like your laptop bag has your laptop, your heels.
Always heels.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about like the recruit, like and the crazy things that I was in the Path in Toronto. Like, so you have a bunch of interviews lined up. But you're walking around in heels. So I actually like stashed shoes in a random bathroom in the Path during that like interview cycle, just because I'm like,
brilliant. This is the brilliance I'm talking about. Who thinks about doing that?
My bag wasn't big enough. And if I'd put the shoes in, it would have like looked bulky. And, of course, no one's going to hire me if I have a bulky bag.
No one wants bulk. No one wants bulk on Bay Street.
Yeah, so it's just fun times. We're going to talk people out of careers in law if you have non-lawyers working, I fear.
You know what, though? I think it's a matter of like we came up through it and we're on a side of it now where we can see all that and it's like ridiculous.
It's funny, yeah.
But I think it's also helpful knowing that like going through that, we thought like this is my life forever. Yeah. And I think that's like a coping mechanism. Yeah. Because for people who aren't, we're not like stuffy, but you think you kind of have to be that way. Yes. And so it's almost like you're falling in love with this system that you don't know if it jives with who you see yourself being eventually. Yeah. And I think I've rebelled against it, like fully. Yeah. I do my job really as best as I possibly can. But I no longer want to like be the partner in the corner office and like have law as my life and all that kind of stuff. But it is funny because like growing up in the system, you think like, I have to like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have to like these heels. I have to love this pencil skirt. Absolutely. That has no pockets.
And you psych yourself up for that. You're like, I can do it. Like, I can do all this work. It'll just be like 5 years or 6 years or whatever. And then, I'll be on a, calmer path or I really like the intensity of this and, deadlines. Yay. Yeah. So you're really like talk yourself into that.
You do.
And like to some extent, there's definitely still pressure, but you don't have to live like they sort of convinced us that we were going to have to. So
no. And I remember also like going through like interviews. So I was in the business law clinic at school.
Yes, I remember.
Right. And so I remember we were going around to different law firms, like just us, like the group of us. Yeah. And I remember one of the guys I was in biz law clinic with being like, I love this part. Like, I love the networking. And he was like really jazzed for the networking. And I would watch him go up to all these like partners on Bay Street firms and just talk to them. And now I realize that like they're just people, and like even like, sorry judges, but like judges don't really scare me anymore. I kind of realize that like everyone's a person, and once you hit I think 35 plus in the legal career, you're like, I'm tired of being scared, you know. But I just remember like as a law student watching him just be like really jacked about it, and I was like, is there something wrong with me that I'm nervous and not jacked about this part?
No,
right?
Absolutely not. I realized that too, is like some people are just really good at that. And I even see that like in my own firm. Like there's some people who they're just built for that and they're excellent. And I can do it. I'm not the best. And in law school, like I guess it was good. Like they've sort of made us do that and kind of develop that skill. But is it natural? Absolutely not. And I don't think, you know, we're missing a gene or anything. I think, you know, it's a talent like anything else.
No, I think you're totally right. And it's funny because I look at you and you're so adventurous and you do so many things that would really scare the living crap out of people. And so for you to say that like that doesn't come natural to you, that like extroverted thing, it's like you don't have to be extroverted to be brave. And I think for so long I like thought those two were one and the same, right?
That's really interesting because somebody else said that to me, like, oh, you're like really brave. And but I'm not afraid. So does that mean I'm brave? Like, so if I travel somewhere, like, is it a condition precedent? Is fear? Sorry. So
is the fear required in order to be brave to overcome it?
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, I don't think I'm brave. I just like, I think this is just something that I'm able to do. Whereas you put me in like a room of 100 people, I'm kind of like, ugh. You know, like I'm not so brave there. And it's not that I'm afraid. It's more that I'm like uncomfortable with it. So I have like just different levels of comfort with things, but absolutely not like, you know, put me in the middle of the desert somewhere and I'm far more at ease than in a room with, you know, dozens and dozens of people and I don't know them and I don't know what to talk about except the weather or like, you know, what do you do for a living? Like, you know, you have your standard lines that you develop, but no, definitely interesting that we you know, kind of conceive, because I would say for you, like you're a natural networker and you're natural.
I'm
like,
so not.
Okay, that's really interesting.
You're so sweet.
Okay.
I am not. I love one-on-one conversations and I love like deep, meaningful conversations. You put me in a room with a bunch of people, I freeze.
Really?
Andrew knows this. I know this. Like I know this of myself. Like I am not great. If someone approaches me, I'm like, I'm good. But just to like kind of be in a group setting, like walk into a busy, whether it's like an art show or like a concert or a house party.
Yeah.
If I know people, I'll go up to them.
Definitely.
But like every friend was once a stranger. So you have to start somewhere.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
I'm not good. I'm not good at it. I love connecting with people, but I'm bad at like, I think that's one of the reasons too I wanted to start this podcast was I love socializing over a common goal or a common activity. So I'm not great at just like walking into a room full of people and talking. But for example, when I did pottery last year, like I did this like pottery workshop.
I want to hear about this.
It was so much fun. And it was this group of like 8 people. And it was just like you could just be quiet. I like the opportunity to be quiet and focus on something and socialize when the need arises.
Yes.
Rather than to just walk into a room and just be expected to socialize because it's a socializing event.
Definitely.
You know?
It reminds me of like sometimes I will travel with a group of people that I don't know. Like Galapagos, you pretty much have to go with a group.
Right.
But I love that because we're all there doing the same thing and they're like interesting people from around the world and you're put in a situation where it's I don't know, I find those kind of connections to be very like I really enjoy that kind of thing. It's a small group, it's you know everyone wants to be there, but I'm the same way and like to walk up to someone and just, you know, assume that you're going to have something compelling and interesting to say. It's very daunting.
It is.
So that's interesting because I would have characterized you as like just a very like natural communicator and you just float through the room and talk to everyone.
No, I'm Armenian, so I'm just loud.
Okay. Well, that helps.
It helps. Coming from a big family definitely helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say, yeah, and I feel like you remember those connections you form more, even if you never see the people again in your life.
Yeah.
And like the women I had in my pottery class, I'll always remember them because like we bonded over a common thing. And so when I look at the pieces I made, I'll always remember those people. I'll remember my instructor. I'll remember those moments. Yeah. And I won't necessarily remember random people I like spoke to at a party one time. Like maybe I will, maybe I won't. Yeah. But I'm not good at surface. I like to like really
dive deep.
Give her.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I'm sure frustrates people sometimes because I'm not great at like casual conversation. Looking at my partner as I say that.
What do you talk about? Like the weather, like and I don't assume that I'm the most interesting person that like, you know, I'll just walk up to someone and start talking about my life. Like, who wants to hear that?
I do. Like, we do.
I was surprised. I'm like, really? Me? Like,
yeah. Okay. You were literally one of the first people I thought of when I was like, I want to have guests.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I look forward to like more guests. I'm really enjoying the podcast. So
thank you so much. Thank you. Ooh. So going on that factor, you say you feel like you're not like the most interesting person or whatever, but so personally, when I looked at my life in law, I always assumed or thought I wanted it to take up much of my life.
Yes.
Like I wanted to be that person billing 2,500 hours a year. And I wanted to be that person who like has business meetings over steak and like, do you know what I mean? And then go back to the office and like,
go back to the
more work. So dumb.
Grind.
That's what I wanted. That's what I thought I wanted.
Me too.
So and is that what you thought you wanted when you started law?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it was also, I wanted a job that I wanted to be doing all the time.
Okay.
I wanted it to be like, yes, it's Monday or like, yes, I'm like working at 7 and you want to be consumed by it. I really wanted that, not just like grinding for the sake of grinding or like to hit a target. But I really wanted a job that was like, you know, I want to be here. I want to be doing this.
Right.
It's changed. And also I kind of saw that for myself because I knew I didn't want other things. Like I knew I didn't want children. So I thought I'm going to have all this time and I can work.
Right.
And, you know, turns out you don't want to spend all your time working and that's okay. Well, maybe some people do. Yeah. And that's okay too.
Totally.
But that's interesting how you thought you just wanted to be lawyering all the time.
I did.
24/7.
I did. Okay. And I felt like it was like something I had to want. Going back to that, I felt like I had to want it because I thought it was the only way. Yeah. That was the only way to be a lawyer. Yeah. It was like, this is your life. This is your existence.
Be like half into this.
Right.
It's not a job. It's almost like a lifestyle.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting. No, that didn't happen for me either. I don't want to work all the time. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not working all the time.
Same, girl. Same. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I have to pee. Is it okay if we pause?
Yeah. The airport is the best place on earth. I love me an airport. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. No, it's not.
This is looking like my desk on a random Tuesday.
All the time.
I'm like a raccoon.
Just get a new glass for every. Yeah.
There would just be like water glasses and coffee mugs everywhere. In her office.
It's true. Everywhere. It's one thing I'm really bad at.
Because
I get to the point where there's so many that I'm like, I can't carry these all.
No, you know that they will be taken care of now. So.
Exactly, right? It's a trade-off. That's what I want to talk to you about your running and your travels. Okay. And I know they're kind of linked, but so I remember when we started law school, I was training for a half marathon and you were running like every day. And I remember one day, it was a Friday, and we were standing in class. Oh, thank you. Sorry, is that better? So it was like you know where I'm going with this. We were sitting in class. I don't know. It was like constitutional or something. And it was at Peter. And he was like, what's everyone up to this weekend? And he just looked at you and he's like, what are you doing? Another marathon, you crazy bitch? Because you are a runner.
Yeah.
And I know that takes up or can take up a lot of time. So were you a runner going into law school or is it something that you developed to cope with the stress?
Interesting. So in my deferral year, that 2010,
Yeah.
I got into distance running, like sort of formally.
Oh, okay.
I'd always kind of ran because but not in a structured way. It was just one of the things that I did, and I'd go out or I'd do like 5K at most.
Yeah.
My dad was a runner.
Oh,
So growing up, I thought it was normal to just go out for like hours and run. And
That's amazing.
He would go out with like no Walkman at the time. It would have been
no headphones.
nothing.
No hydration vest.
Nothing.
Just raw dogging.
Just raw dogging.
2-3 hour run.
Yeah, that was my dad. So I grew up
Amazing.
thinking and I didn't personally like it because I wasn't fast, and I thought because in like school they just make you run around the track,
the mile
Come on.
test and the beep test.
Yeah.
And you thought if you weren't fast, it wasn't. There's
I'm
no
not
point.
a runner. There's
Absolutely.
I'm a bad runner, or I'm not a runner.
Yes.
So it took me a while to get used to the idea that you don't have to run fast. You just run far.
Yeah.
So I developed sort of I liked it over time. And then I think it was 2010. I decided to just train for a half marathon. I was like, okay, I need
gonna
a
write
goal.
the LSAT. Gonna do a half marathon.
Gonna do it.
Love it.
And I picked the Disney Princess half marathon.
You did not.
I had to
That
have
would
a
be
goal
so
race. I had to have a goal race. Wore a tutu. There are photos.
Were you the kind of person that stopped to take photos with each of the mascots, or were you like,
Did
no,
not.
I gotta PR this?
No, I wanted my sub 2 hours.
You blasted past.
I ignored the characters. I was, I hit a 157, and I was so happy.
Your first half
I
marathon.
was so happy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was really, really pleased with that.
Good for you.
And then after that, that was sort of the year before law school. I did a couple more halves, and then I'm like, all right, well,
What's next?
I think I'll go up. And then I did Midsummer Night's Run, which was a 30. And then it was just in that first bit of law school that I ran my first marathon ever.
Did you do the Toronto waterfront?
Yeah.
So you did the full, I did the half.
We did the
that.
same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
Oh my
race.
gosh.
Yeah.
So what is it? A month and a half into law school.
Yeah.
And you're just casually running 42K on the weekend.
I mean, it wasn't so casual. It was...
Did you have headphones? Did you have a vest? Or did you go full on
No.
water stations as my only?
Yeah, I didn't carry water. I never carry water. So I would have been water stations. And I think I was pretty good by that point at squishing the cup and kind of running with the cup.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And not stopping. That was...
I stopped.
So it was... And I've relaxed a little bit since then. But headphones, I can't remember. Nowadays, I listen to podcasts when I run, on long runs.
Same. Yeah.
I can't remember. Definitely in trails, I don't listen to anything.
Fair.
But yeah, I was pretty into the gear early on. I had the shoes, and I had the special sweat wicking fabric.
It's just a fun part of it. I feel like any job, any hobby, I feel like there's a point where you can get so into the gear that it's almost like you're spending more time on your gear than doing the thing. But I think there's that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where I think gear matters.
It does.
To a certain extent.
It does.
Right?
I'm I got a Garmin early on. So I was always a Garmin person.
Nice.
I had a whack of Aeroplan points. Big surprise. So I bought, I was kind of annoyed with some of the things about Garmin. So I was like, I'm going to try this Apple Watch. I hate it.
I've heard people regret getting the Apple Watch for run tracking over a Garmin or similar GPS type product.
Going back to my Garmin.
Are you?
It's I like the way it looks.
It looks very sleek.
I just miss my Garmin.
Fair.
So, yeah,
Fair.
that's really the piece of gear that I'm most attached to. Shoes, I've stayed pretty consistent. I'm an Asics person.
I've heard those are great. Yeah.
Tried some Hokas for trails. They're okay, but yeah. Oh, we're gonna talk about running now.
I'm literally, I could do a running podcast episode with you.
could.
Maybe that's next.
Should.
I love it.
Yeah.
No.
Are you have you done a full?
I'm planning to in October.
Yes.
I've already signed up and paid for it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
so
currently
excited.
going through some runner's knee rehab. Got a little
Been there.
bit of patellofemoral.
Do you have orthotics?
I don't. No, is that something you would recommend?
So when I first started training, I had that runner's knee pain.
Yep.
It took like, I don't know, it was actually not even like a prescription orthotic. It was just a thing I bought in the drugstore or whatever. And it made that difference, made a huge difference.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally
Well,
took care of it.
this is all worth it just for that piece of knowledge.
If that's what, because if you drop it, if you're pronating at all,
Yeah.
it can like throw the whole
Yeah.
alignment of your knee off. So I found just that little boost
Oh,
made in my arch made a huge difference.
I will give that a try.
Yeah. Not like, this is not medical advice.
No, she works in health law, everyone. She's very much of a medical doctor.
Yeah.
You do have a doctorate.
Do I? Oh, I guess we
Juris
do. We are
doctor.
juris doctors.
Yeah, if anyone's on a
Right.
plane and needs a doctor,
Hey.
we could stand up and tell them the ratios of the biggest constitutional cases in Canada.
Can we?
Okay, that's good to know because I have working on weak glutes and tight hips,
Yeah, that's standard
So that's-
runner fare.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we sit all day.
Well, here's something else you can do.
I have a standing desk.
Do you have a walking pad?
Andrew,
Walking pad.
can you add it to the list, please?
No, it's a game changer.
Is it really?
It is. And you'll think at first, okay, I'm going to have this walking pad in my office and I'll just take breaks and I'll take walking breaks.
Uh-huh.
But you can train yourself. Like I've trained myself. I can type. I can write a mediation memo. I can, while I am sauntering. Like I'm not speed walking.
No, but you're moving
But
a
I'm
little
moving.
bit.
And what did it was like, because I was having back pain when I was sitting.
Right.
And it's all like tight hamstrings. It's
Tight
If I
hamstrings.
just bothered to stretch for 5 minutes,
I know.
I'd probably be fine.
But it's stretching, but it's also mobility and it's strength and it's all the
Yeah.
things like when you have a like a sitting job like we do. I don't think
Yeah.
I was ready for the physical aspects, how much I would have to fight
Yeah.
the nature of my job to remain healthy.
Yeah.
In terms of hours or diet or lifestyle or just the like sitting all the time, typing. I've started dictating more.
Yep.
Because like typing just hurts. You're typing,
hurts.
like a 20-page like pretrial brief.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That shit gets old.
I never thought I'd be a dictator. I thought like it's just like
Me too.
old lawyers
Oh my
dictate.
God. Right?
No, now I actually use drag and dictate. You need the right mic because I found initially I was having to do a lot of corrections and it was just faster for me to type it.
Yeah.
But it's getting better. The software is getting better as
that's good.
I guess we kind of teach it. But the walking pad is, I could not, and it's easier to
Amazing.
saunter than it is to stand, I think, for long periods of time.
Because when I'm standing, I find myself like shifting around. I'm standing
Yeah.
still. I don't think we're made to like
No.
life lesson. We're not made to stand
You're
still.
not.
I'm going to call this Carolyn's Corner. These are like all like nuggets.
You're not waiting for a bus. Like it's just, and it's not like it's like you do have to get used to it because at first, I could just like read an email or
Right.
it's like you have to get your brain used to it, but it does happen and like you are
Brilliant.
able to do it. And I'm seeing like a few more around the office, but like it's
So smart.
yeah, it's I kind of keep my door shut because it looks like kind of weird. But oh, weight vest too, like so.
You're just like practicing
There's
wrecking
a
while you're
whole,
writing your
like,
mediation memo.
Guess what my reputation is around the office.
Honestly, this is another thing I wanted to talk to you about, and maybe this is a good time to bring it up, is International Women's Day. We're women in law,
Yeah.
women in litigation. The thought is, or the impression is of litigate, people never believe I'm a lawyer.
Why?
They're like, oh, you're nice.
That, yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm nice, but
Yeah.
you don't have to be an asshole to be a good lawyer.
No, absolutely not.
And then they're like, oh, like you do all this stuff. Like I didn't think a lawyer would like, I guess I'm just like silly, or like if you're playful or if you have hobbies that people wouldn't naturally think are like lawyer hobbies. I did a whole podcast episode, like one of my first ones. I think the first one I did was about hobbies and why hobbies outside of the law are so important.
Yeah.
But I think one reason, I think especially as women, and this thought isn't fully formed, but I think especially as women, like I had this fear early on in my career, and I still kind of do, that if I do certain things outside of work, or if I look or act a certain way, people will not take me as serious. And then by virtue, I'm not a serious lawyer and I'm not a good lawyer. And I know I'm a good lawyer. And so that's something I wonder is that like, sorry to like gender this, but like, is that a woman thing? Like, do you think guys ever think, if I have this hobby, or if I go out getting drunk on like in the finance district on a Friday night, people will see me and not think I'm a good lawyer? Or is that something we think of? Because I had a fear starting this podcast and something I really wanted to do, but I was like, will people think that I'm unserious?
Yeah.
Right.
And no, like absolutely. Like I think it's a great fit, and it's
Thanks.
you know, it's not like tarnishing your street cred as a lawyer at all. But I think that's true. And again, of course, I don't want to generalize, but yeah, I don't get the sense that men are having the same like sort of doubt around that. Like, oh, should I be doing this? No, I'm just going to go out there and be me.
Yeah.
Even, you know, like taking my trips.
Yes.
I try to contain them, like, so I won't take more than 2 weeks at a time. But I'm like, oh, some people don't take vacation. Like, should I be taking my vacation? Like, you know, I only post on Instagram really anymore when I travel. So it's gonna look like I'm just this like jet setter. Like I never work. I'm just traveling all the time and running and
traveling to run.
When am I gonna work?
Right.
So yeah, I think about that too, especially as, you know, part of my work, I'm sort of expected to have a bit of a public profile.
Yeah.
And I've struggled with that because I'm like, I want to be authentic, but I also don't want to put my whole life out there for, you know, sort of scrutiny or whatever. But it's I feel like I've struggled with that a little bit more. And I look at, you know, some people on LinkedIn and they're on social and there's just no fear and they're just open and this is what I'm doing and this is who I am. And so I understand that, like starting a podcast or sort of any like project with a public profile would be a little bit daunting.
Totally.
And
I think it's funny because like so before when I did have TikTok, I don't anymore. I deleted it for my mental health, but now Instagram is basically TikTok.
It's the same thing now.
It's all the same stuff. But I remember there was this lawyer on TikTok in the States, this like Barbie doll, like beautiful lawyer, like blonde hair, like immaculate makeup on these like hot pink suits. And she's like an amazing lawyer. And much of her, like her TikTok was, I can look like this and still be really good at my job.
Right.
I can look like this and still be a kick-ass lawyer.
Yeah.
And I just, it boggles my mind that it's like, well, 2023, 2024, 2025, like that still has to be asserted. Yeah. Like it still has to be, you know, like Legally Blonde when Warner breaks up with Elle and he's like, you know, Harvard is serious and and you're not or whatever. And it's just like, what's unserious about being a woman?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, even the suits I was buying early on in my legal career were atrocious.
Were they?
Because I didn't want them to be too girly.
Right.
So they were all like brown and blue and like horrible cuts and fits. Because I was like, God forbid anyone think I have boobs or a butt when I'm walking into motions court.
You can't be too attractive.
No.
No one will take you seriously.
No one will take you seriously. I don't think I ever put on makeup or like tried with my hair because I did not want to show up to court looking too girly.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that you felt that?
Yeah.
And you know, they tell us that though in the, you know,
they do.
The law school, wear neutral colors to your interviews. Don't wear loud prints. Don't show any personality.
No
basically.
Personality.
So,
you are allowed maybe a moderate statement necklace.
Maybe.
At best.
Maybe.
And that's if you are entering for government roles. Like
Exactly.
if you were going on Bay Street, don't stand out, but stand out.
Yeah.
Be memorable, but don't be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all of these things. And it's taken so long and I'm still fighting that all the time.
Yeah.
I had a discovery the other day and me and the other lawyer were like so cordial with each other. And at the end, he thanked me. He's like, thank you for being so like pleasant to deal with. And I was actually thinking the same thing about you because I've had a string of horrible days with really difficult counsel. And this is going to sound ageist, but I was telling Andrew when I got home, I was like, the funny thing about it was like, we are both younger lawyers and our clients were both younger.
Right.
So it was a room full of millennials just running the day.
Yeah.
And no one yelled.
Whoa.
No one lost their temper. I refused a question, and instead of like berating me and telling me that he did my job for 15 years before he did his own, like stupid things that men tell me all the time, he was like, okay.
Wow.
and moved on. And I was like, I need more of this because I will sign on to a discovery. I'll be friendly. I'll smile. I'm not trying to be severe in any way. I'll let my personality kind of go through in my job. And I imagine you're the same way. Yeah. But it's almost like you feel like you're rebelling when you do that.
Definitely. That is actually, I was thinking about that too, because I don't have, like, I work in litigation.
Yeah.
Litigation is adversarial.
Yes.
But I am not adversarial.
No.
I don't like conflict.
Same.
I'm like a sort of peace-loving person. And I was talking to actually my dad about this, and he said, well, yeah, you just have a different style. And so I don't even try to be aggressive, but I often think, should I be doing this? Because I'm just not aggressive. I don't want to yell.
Yeah.
I don't want to be yelled at.
No. I hate arguing.
Oh, it's the worst.
Especially at discovery.
Oh, no.
Why are we giving motions submissions in front of our clients?
Nobody wants to hear an undertakings motion.
No one wants to hear an undertakings motion at discovery.
Just,
shut it, zip it, move on.
Take it under advisement and deal with it later.
Exactly.
Like, I felt that at times, like, because when you don't fit that stereotypical mold, which I'm realizing more and more, most lawyers are not like that. They're not cranky and yelling all the time. And I would say 75 to 80% of the lawyers I deal with are reasonable, pleasant human beings.
Yes. And you look forward to seeing their name on pleadings because you're like, oh, thank
good.
God.
Oh, it's so-and-so.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think that's, does that make us, like, I don't know, not strong advocates? I don't think so. We just have a different way of getting and I find too at discovery, like, I get more information being nice
when they like you, when the person you're questioning likes
when
you.
I'm not cross-examining someone. It's amazing what they will tell me if you're just friendly and nice. And
absolutely.
Hey, this is a conversation. This is a chance for me to learn more about whatever's going on with you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It definitely is a strength. I think we were made to think it was a weakness. Yeah. And I think it's a strength. And I think that, like, I just have to keep reminding myself of that because I see these aggressive people coming into discoveries or whatever, and I'm just like, that's not my style.
Or like, are they a real lawyer? Is that what a real lawyer is supposed to be?
Oh my God, yes. Is that what a real lawyer looks like and does and acts like? And
I'm not that person.
And you're not that person. Hey, you probably feel like we left you hanging, and that's because we did. I had such a great time with Carolyn, and we talked way more than I anticipated. So we actually broke this chat into 2 different episodes. So you just saw part 1, and we're releasing part 2 next week, where we get into her travels and some other juicy stuff. So come back and check it out.